All hands on deck. We have a full moon in Aries this week that promises to make peace. The only problem is it may cause chaos to get there. All that and more on Namaste Today Live. Keep streaming. Hello and welcome to Namaste Today Live. I am your host, Psychic Astrologer Sensei Christopher Witecki here. I'm the trusted channel to the step astrology method and the conscious operating system of the human incarnation. What it means is a sharper way to look at astrology, and we're here every week to present that. Welcome everyone. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Xin, or actually say X.com, and Instagram if you don't know. And we have our super chat running saying hello to everyone. If you're in the super chat, all these chats go to all these chats. So if you are in the chat, introduce yourself to your brothers and sisters. Tell them your name and your sun sign. Well, folks, it's going to be an intense week. If it hasn't already, I'll talk about it. I mean, for me, I just sat in this chair. This is the first time I could sit down calmly in the day. And that's been normal, the new norm, it seems, but not really. We'll talk about it this week. We do have the sun squaring Mars this weekend. That means that you can expect a turn in the narrative. We have a full moon in Aries, which is another blast of energy that we do need. And then Venus moves into Sagittarius, which means we're opening up to a whole new story. And tonight in Astro Mingle, our guest is Ravi Singh. He is a Kundalini master and teacher and author of the book, The Kundalini Yoga book. We'll talk to him about Kundalini Yoga and perhaps Yogananda and more later tonight. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. From Saturday, October 12th to Friday, October 18th, 2024. Looking ahead at the weekend forecast, we transition from the intermediate to the master level of Libra. You can expect to be challenged on whether or not it will go through. Most of the lesson is holding faith. On Saturday, it's sunny and suspenseful. Step 19 means net 10 rules a day. That's a Taurus energy or Earth. This means we are waiting for things to manifest. This is the nail biter, where you might be worried that it'll work out or not, and Chiron sextiles Jupiter, helping you to heal the story. But with the moon in Aquarius, you'll have the ability at least to detach and not take it personally. On Sunday, it's sunny and amicable. Step 20 means the moon is ruling the day, and the moon is in two parts. The first part of the day in Aquarius, the second part in Pisces, meaning things will move from detached to rather sensitive. In this day, you are receiving all the feelings about this particular transit and setting the guardrails should something go wrong. Also, there are 5 major aspects on this day. The most interesting, Mercury squaring Pluto, a perhaps mental challenge of power. Zipping forward now to the 5-day weekday forecast, over the course of the work week, we feel ourselves open up to new possibilities, have a breakthrough, and by Friday, you're seeking faith. On Monday, it's sunny and forgiving. Step 21 means Jupiter retrograde rules the day. This is a day where you will receive a plot twist, a surprise. A new story will begin. Also, the sun squaring Mars may bring some tremors of energy between ego and heartfelt intentions. The moon in Pisces makes things rather sensitive. But Venus opposing Uranus at step 27 means there's definitely a change of plans. On Tuesday, it's cloudy and karmic. Step 22 means Uranus rules the day. Expect the unexpected. You'll receive an upgrade overall to your perception of what relationships must be going forward. You're encouraged to choose the highest frequency possible. Things tense up when the moon will shift from Pisces into Aries, but Venus trines Neptune, perhaps answering prayers in a way you never imagined. On Wednesday, it's sunny and impulsive. Step 23 indicates Mercury now rules the day. Your thoughts are taking over. In that mental space, you receive a vision. An emotional transformation, therefore, is in the works. Also, the moon moves from aggressive Aries to calm blue ocean Taurus, but the sun conjoins Juno at step 23, which means this big plan you have is going to stick. On Thursday, it's sunny and relieved. Step 24 means that Venus is ruling this day. It's not just a day, it's the full moon in Aries at step 24, which means you will receive an agreement or a compromise. You'll realize this is the way. The moon in Taurus will make it feel like it's going to last, and Venus enters into Sagittarius, opening up to optimism and hope. And then on Friday, it's cloudy but grounded. Step 25 says Neptune is ruling the day, so there's days of moments of going through space-time issues, but what you receive in that spiritual energy is you receive grace. You can feel in your soul this is the start of a new chapter. Now with the moon in Taurus, and so it is.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
Do us a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified, and if you don't mind, please like this program right now so the YouTube algorithm will select us and suggest us to other astrology fans out there. Namaste Today Live is proudly sponsored for another week by the Arc Animal and Tarot Certification Course. That's right, from one of our good friends, Bernadette King. If you're not familiar, she is the author of this cool deck of cards and also Oracle, and a big book inside to describe. But now she's actually doing a special Oracle certification where you can be certified. By the way, I had to talk with her about this. It's really cool. She's going to put all the certified people on her website, which, by the way, gets millions of people in traffic every month. This is a great way to be a psychic reader in a safe, grounded, and practical spectrum, which is the animal kingdom. You'll learn species communication with animals. And I think that translates to the actual animals, by the way, the actual ones you pet. You'll be able to hone your psychic skills as well and have someone to practice with. That's in itself, I think, worth the money. And you'll get inside tips and tricks on how to run a spiritual business. It's a big deal. If you want to be a part of this, you can get $100 off the certification. Just email seriousjoy@gmail.com with the hashtag ARC in the subject line. And our staff and our team will send out to you the coupon code for the $100 off. It's a great opportunity, and we are so happy to support one of our friends here of the show. So without further ado, let's move on to our weekly planets and transits. All right, so we will have a little commercial for Burnett later, by the way, and play that. We are all coming together in a new format here, and I'll just tell you that we're going to be going through a little bit of a remodel here with Namaste Today Live. We've talked about it. It's going to go actually to a new broadcast time on Sunday mornings is what we're looking at, and we'll have more details. In the meantime, sometimes just pardon our dust as we're transforming as we go. That's always fun to do, right? To change your clothes as you're walking. It's difficult. So I'm so glad to be here in front of you guys. It's been intense, has it not? I mean, for me, I think Libra is not my strongest suit. I am a 9 by nature, a net 9. That is so many step numbers in my chart have 9s in them. And so I'm very Aries based. And when I hit Libra, it's all about the clutch. It's all about slowing down. It's always all about rebalancing. So for me, this is one of my more difficult times of the year. But I think there's a bigger scope here as well. And that bigger scope is that we are about to change gears in a big way. If you want to call Libra the clutch, we're going to click into gear in Scorpio. I just had a meeting with our lead astrologer, Robbie Hunt, looking at the November and what's going to happen specifically in the Scorpio range for our mega monthly reports coming up. And we've been realizing that once Scorpio hits, in fact, I'm going to give you the title right now. The title for Scorpio for us is going to be Balancing on a Tight Wire. That's going to be, I feel, what Scorpio is about. Before we get there, however, we have to sort of set into the mind and define what is balance. What does balance mean to me? What does it take for me to balance my life? As we move into these 20 degrees, which is where we are right now, the step 20s and above, in the step system, the 2 and the 20 is I feel. So in every third decan that you go through an astrological transit, you end it with how you feel and how you feel and. That's how the step system architects it. What that means is you bring all of your feelings to the table and what you're dealing with. All your feelings to the table and what else you're dealing with. And it's that all your feelings to the table that makes things so, hard. Just put it that way, hard. Simple word, hard. It makes it difficult. It makes it challenging. It makes us not feel like we are in any sort of finesse. I personally feel kind of clumsy in the step 20s because depending on what I'm bringing to the table determines what I can go and do forward. So First and foremost, I'll say, as we go forward, we're in step 19. We're about to go into step 20s this weekend. Do what you can, in your heart to ground yourself and clear any resonant emotion. Try to take this time here in the next 3 or 4 days to clear out anything that might be holding you back. This isn't a time where it'd be wise to hold grudges. This isn't a time in these master steps of relationships to not speak how you feel to someone. And I can't really underscore it enough. A lot of people have communication based on what they think, especially in relationships. Well, I think this, and I think you're just to that, and I think. Well, how do you feel? Because there's so much that people are accustomed to holding back on their feelings. And a therapist will tell you, an astrologer will tell you, a good psychic medium will tell you when they're counseling with their clients, it's the feelings that tell us so much. It's the feelings that we read. It's the feelings that gives us the context of all the words. In fact, one of the issues we have right now in society is the text message business. Even internally in our organization, text message, all these text messages, chat apps, text messages. Text messages are really horrible for conveying information when it's between people and staff and faculty and people who work together, because if you're having a bad day and you haven't managed your own feels, then it's very easy to project your feels onto the interpretation of those words. I'm guilty of it. I'll say to my own partner, my business partner, why are you so upset? And he'd be like, I'm not upset at all. And I realize, oh, okay, it's me. I'm projecting that on the text messages, onto the chat messages. That's a perfect example of how emotion needs to be coupled with words. And in the context of human communication, emotions and feelings need to be coupled with what your words are. So that's a little friendly piece of advice based on where I have slipped up my whole life, actually. Now, moving into this week, we're in a very, fascinating time. Let's look at the global first, and then we'll get down to the nano. In the global, this is Libra. Libra is sort of the clutch. Libra is sort of the rebalancing act. Consciously, it comes right after Virgo, which is sort of a cluster of ridiculous in the sense of just every detail coming in every moment. All the truth is undeniable. The facts are undeniable. The evidence is so undeniable. And so you come in this like really difficult energy at the tail of Virgo, because it's a tale of everything we didn't do right. It's a tale of everything that we made mistakes on. It's a tale of everything we should have done. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. And then you go into Libra, and it's sort of like now you're sort of skating on spiritual ice, because the Libra energy itself is designed to be kind of, a teeter-totter. It's designed to be a scale, as they say. And that's because it has a duality to it, just like you have a duality to Gemini. And so in the Libra duality, which those placeholders, those XY components can be swapped out for anything, the energy itself is designed to go back and forth. When we go back and forth, shopping for something, we're using our Libra energy. We go back and forth as to what's fair, we definitely use our Libra energy. And we go back and forth with each other, we use our Libra energy. We're sort of balancing to see, is this a steady flow? The goal of Libra energy is net 6. Net 6 is I receive. For you to sit there and receive something, to take it in, such as bad news. That was one of my challenges this whole season, was how much bad news can I receive and stay calm and not tip my scale while my knees are bouncing on the table and stuff, because I'm a 9 that just has to have output and energy. So we move into Libra, and it's really about coming into that balance. In the first decan, we restore balance with ourselves. In the second decan, which is from steps 10 to 19, we restore balance and order into our daily life. That was what this last week has been about. This last week has been about trying to restore balance and order to your daily life and your daily life relationships. So for me, it was very professional. It was very about my business, about how we operate, about the people I work with. But it was also about things that where I was trying to help others and they were kicking back, or people trying to help me and I was resisting. So there was a lot of back and forth, I think, this week, having lived it. And it was really with the root intention of, restoring balance and then staying open, being able to stay open. When you are in a state of being open, you actually, think about it. Openness is sort of, let's say you're open to meeting everybody at the party. If you are open to meeting everyone at the party, your hands can't be crossed. You can't be crossing your arms like this, because it sends a message that you're not open. You have to literally be there and ready to talk to anyone that comes up to you. You have to have your own mind cleared to know that it's that you won't be obsessing about something else when you're talking to that person. There's many steps. In fact, the step system says almost 6 steps, 5 steps necessary to remain open. The protection, you're in your heart, you're in tune with your feelings, you know what you believe, you know where you belong in this context, you know what your attitude is and what you think, and now you can be open. Clearing those steps allows you to be open. I say this to remind you as we go into this next week. As in the big picture of things, we have just transferred, we're about ready to completely draw the line between literally in the physical world, the story we were born to from the story we're born to live, right? I've also called this the old era and the new era. We've called it the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, although it's the dawn of the age of Aquarius. It'll take about 125 years for transition, but this is the dawn right now. I believe you are the mothers and fathers of the new age. And so, down to Scorpio, which is around the corner, will be the final line where cuts are made, where people are divorcing, where lines are drawn that will not be redrawn. Who knows? I can't see that far into the astrological record right now. I don't have the time to study, but they will be redrawn eventually. And so in this last week, from the big picture, this moving from a old era to a new era, okay, we have this final week of getting emotionally balanced with the step 20s, coming into our emotional center and making those final little tiny wee. I'm thinking of little pigs where it's just right. We're making those Goldilocks zones. We're creating these Goldilocks zones of everything that feels right, just right, for us to be able to move forward with Scorpio and start drawing the lines. So taking it down literally to this week, energetically this week, we have a couple of themes going on. The main theme is ending relationship traditions. So what this means is that you have traditionally done it this way and traditionally done it that way. Traditionally, we used to do this, we used to talk about it from this perspective. The other tradition we have is doing that. Traditions are sort of based on best practices that end up becoming, that eventually, originally were solutions or initiations that we thought was the best foot forward. And these traditions become emotionally comfortable in certain zones of our life. So because we stick to tradition, this week we're going to realize the traditions don't work, okay? We have to rework the tradition. So we have to create a new tradition for how we do this and how we do that. And these are based on how we feel, where everyone feels most comfortable or when everyone feels most safe. That creates the tradition. And so your guiding light is what feels most comfortable. And if you're in a team environment like we are, your guiding light is what feels most comfortable to the team. This isn't to say one person feels a little uncomfortable with one edge, and another person feels a little uncomfortable with another edge. The universe usually works that out because perhaps that person is being stretched everywhere in their life on that edge. It usually, if you do a drill down, you'll see what the universe is up to. But we want to find that those traditions that feel good. And the reason why we want to settle into a new tradition or a best practice tradition is because when we go through Scorpio and we start drawing the lines, this will be what allows us to maintain our balance. One could say that this next week is really about creating our posture that we want to keep for all of Scorpio and all the Scorpio division. And here in the United States, the election, right? So it's going to be literally pretty intense for us here in the US. Now, the subplot of the week is going to be really the birth of the we, is what we call it. It's the birth of the we. And I talked about the we and that we were moving from a me to a we, flipping that me upside down to a we. This is a perspective of how we see us in the world. Pluto enters back into Aquarius on November 19th. That's when we begin the new worldview. That's when technically God universe starts to enforce the we. That is, it's we the people, for instance. I'm real proud of that for our nation. It's we the people. That was an idea of bringing it to the we, and we did it, right? Now we are not doing it. Now it's all about the I again, unfortunately, and just with the way our corporatism and all of our, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, capitalism, that was the word. Not that I'm for socialism or any other ism. Maybe we should stop using isms, but the point is that capitalism and greed and all sorts of things have moved this country anyways from we to me or I again, I feel. But that's all right. Perhaps that was necessary to be able to really appreciate the power of the we. So we includes me. That's the cool thing about it. And the birth of the we means is the means, or it's not the means, it's the intention. It's the root intention that it must be we, not any I or not any me. The we that we are looking at and feeling the power of the we. When you're doing that balancing, of what's appropriate and what's not, you're doing it from the perspective of how we all feel. And so how we feel is ultimately the only feeling that will matter. And it has to be feeling, incidentally. It has to be something we use with our emotional context, because, going back and forth about details does not solve the problem. It doesn't solve how we feel. And we feel as a collective feeling. So as we move into the week, let's actually dive into the planets. We start, of course, with the sun in Libra. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. The question of the week, too, and we'll talk about this, is where do I feel my relationships are going? And that's the nano of how to arc, I think, the we. Thanks, Adam. The arc of the we, let's take it back for a second. The arc of the we is that it's not that you try to make it feel good today, because feelings have a slow response rate. I feel, for instance, in my work in astrology, that it takes until the next sign that the moon is in. So let's say the moon is in Aries. You don't really feel the effect of the work you did in Aries until the moon is in Taurus. So it's not till the moon leaves the sign that I have seen through my research with our app and our service, where people give us feedback, that you feel better when it goes to the next sign. So you can't insist on how we feel today. It's how we feel we are going. How do we feel this is going? What direction do we feel this is going? Where do I feel my relationships are going? My given relationship with this person, my given relationship with that, my part of the we, the me and the we. How do I feel this is going? And by knowing where it's going, you know where its course is heading. And you know that when the moon gets into the next sign and the next sign and the next sign, you'll know, in fact, yes, this is how I felt it going, and I was correct. I felt so. So managing it is, how do I feel my relationships are going, or where they are as well. Not just how, but where are they going? In that context, I would say use that sort of, use that word of navigation, use that perspective of emotional navigation of, it's all right. Today it feels icky, but it feels like it's going in a good place, or it feels like it's going to a place of freedom, or it feels like it's going to a place of equilibrium between us. If as long as you feel it moving that direction, it will continue to move in that direction, because where we feel our emotions going is actually the course they are going until something interrupts the course. And of course, that could be something in the effect of an unexpected, uninvited intrusion, which could throw off how we feel it's going. And if you do have an intrusion, try to correct it, and then ask yourself, now how do you feel it's going? How do you feel that relationship is going, and where do you feel it's going? So now I'm bringing us back from space-time. We went ahead in time, we're coming back. It brings us now to the planets themselves. And this week, the planets are actually preparing to make some major shifts. We're going to talk about what that means. One thing that Robbie and I realized was that almost all the personal planets change signs at the same time this upcoming month. The sun, though, however, this week goes from step 19 to step 26. Today it's at 19. So today you are manifesting by moving forward with your operating system for how you stay in balance in daily life. And we literally at our team came up with some solutions in the last hour. By the end of the week, step 26, you're now devoting yourself to how you feel your life moving, and where you feel it going. So it's going to be where you feel it's going to unfold for yourself. And this is, basically the ending of relationship traditions and the beginning of new beta traditions. So you feel this transition from getting daily things done, getting daily life in balance, to on the course of getting your future in balance. Mercury actually moves from step 27 today to step 8 Scorpio by next Friday. This means that our mind will work through the details of how to launch this new balancing act that we're going to have. And then those first 8 degrees of Scorpio is our mind probably eliminating options or adding options to consider. Remember, the mind actually may articulate what the options are, but it's the heart that actually makes the decision in association with the emotions. So our heart and emotions, you hear people say, my heart's not in it. They're saying that because their heart's making the choice, not their mind. the mind has presented these informations like you could do this, you could do this, and there's always that. But it's our heart. If our heart can't live with it, we can't live with it. If it feels bad, we just can't deal with it. So I believe that Mercury moving into Scorpio will be coming up with the choices. The mind is presenting choices that we have for when the sun arrives at that destination later. Now, of course, we still have the South Node at step 6 all week. It's this whole month. The South Node is at step 6. Step 6 is the I receive state of awareness, but an upside down 6, which is what a South Node is that it's moving south. It's moving out of our life. And so what's moving out of our life is the old way of relating to ourselves. The entire month of October is our old way of relating to ourselves moving out. And Black Moon Lilith moves from 11 to 12 degrees Libra, which means our fear shifts from health and integrity to the unknown. So you'll start to feel, when you start to feel afraid of the unknown, then your issues around health and integrity are over, right? When a new fear comes in, the old fear goes away. Thanks, Black Moon Lilith. But I actually really like Black Moon Lilith as a shadow point because you can really tell where the light is from the shadow. The shadow's moving, the light's moving, right? So it's pretty fascinating. On to Aries consciousness, now the opposite of Libra. In Aries, our North Node is at 6, of course, which means taking action to restore balance with ourselves, taking action to make our mirage in a stronger suit of energy. Chiron at 21 degrees says that we are healing the old story. And to me, it's like the way I coined this is healing the bad ending, healing the tragic ending. So where we had been expecting for the world to destroy itself, or expecting for there to be a civil war, expecting for there to be this, or expecting for there to be that. In fact, I've seen a lot on the internet and people posting of, oh gosh, we're never going to, with the food, the issue with the strike happening on the East Coast and us not getting food, in a timely manner, all of our fears of starvation, the story that we all starved to death, that story came up for healing, right? The strike has been, from what I hear, don't quote me on this, but I feel it's been negotiated. So I guess that wasn't true, right? So we're kind of getting rid of the stories that we tell ourselves about the future and the outcome and realizing they're not true. In place of that, we have in Gemini, Jupiter in Gemini. So let's look at Gemini. Jupiter has retrograded as of last week, moving backwards in Gemini. This means that Jupiter has laid out all the good ideas that it has in the collective conscious bank. That's what this is. This is a hard drive holding Earth's collective consciousness. From what I understand and from what I see in my third eye, it's literally a hard drive. So it's holding all the consciousness and spinning it around, and it's got that disk drive spinning on the front. Now that it's retrograde, it says, okay, all of the aspects and all the ideas and concepts is the word I was looking for that we have that may remedy our situation is out there in the public, it's out there in the world. So now we start to move forward and we start to internalize. Well, if this is the belief about how things are going, how does my belief in me change? What do I need to change in myself? Where do I need research? Where do I need education? Where do I need to explore this and go deeper? So Jupiter retrograde means there's no new ideas or concepts to consider per se, but it's time to deeply consider the ones that have been presented. So the next aspect, of course, with all this great intention are our feelings, the moons. The moon is in Aquarius, so we are a bit detached at the moment, which feels good. Otherwise, I think we'd all be jittering off the stage. But the moon is on Sunday. It continues on Saturday, moves into Sunday. Halfway of Sunday is a split moon between Aquarius and Pisces. This means that you will go from attached to suddenly very sensitive. And you'll be picking up on the karmic situation you have with everyone around you. The karmic situation really has never been more improved in a given time. So this is the only year that we have grown so much karmically in my whole lifetime. I've never seen more growth, spiritual growth, than this year in 2024. Spiritual growth. We haven't seen it materialize in the Virgo consciousness, but we certainly are seeing it in the essence of where we are. So that essence comes up Sunday night, Monday, and half of Tuesday, where in those days, as we are exploring the step numbers and how things are shifting, we are feeling the karmic consequences of it. So let me actually go through the steps. This would be a good way to go through the steps to the moons. On Saturday and on Sunday, we are at step 19 and 20. So the weekend of being detached with Aquarius is us elevating the conversation now to the we from the us, right? So it's us, we, as far as Libra is concerned. So it's been all about us. Now it's about the we and the big picture. You're detached in Aquarius when you are moving into those steps. And then as we move into Monday, we then move into step 21. And that's, of course, the moon will be, in that time, the moon will be in Pisces. And so in step 21, we start to open up to our new horizon, open up to what's possible in the we at work, we in the house, we in the hospital, all the we of, the theme park that we work together in. Then when we're in that we're actually feeling all the Pisces energy. And then we move to step 22 on Tuesday. And that's when shift hits the fan, in the sense that suddenly now we come to this new conclusion of we. So one of the key dates, I would say, of the week is step 22, which happens on Tuesday when the moon is in Pisces. And on that day, you're going to feel that you have ascended out of an old karmic pattern, or you have not. You've descended out of a karmic pattern. And if that's the case, you will have to go back to the drawing board. After the Pisces energy, we go into step 23, and we move on to the beginning degrees of Aries on Tuesday and Wednesday. And so when that happens, we begin the countdown to the full moon. The full moon is going to build an apex on Thursday. We'll talk more about that in the individual soul horoscopes. But the full moon is commanding, a full moon is commanding that we separate, full moons separate from anything that is causing a distress or disturbance of the peace. Step 24 is the peace. So we're sort of told to pull away from obnoxious behavior with the full moon in Aries. And we ride that ride. The moon moving up to the full moon is sort of building up to this pressure point. So I do feel, for instance, that Tuesday and Wednesday, you're feeling this pressure building, and it might be pressure in the sense of, oh my gosh, I better tell her I'm going to quit. I better let this out, or I'm going to split. You feel that pressure building, and that pressure apexes on Thursday at 7:26 a.m. in the United States on the East Coast at step 24. So that Thursday morning, things split, which means it'll probably be a lot of work, a lot of career stuff, a lot of people splitting with things during the daily life. Then, of course, the moon moves into Taurus, where basically we are feeling through the permanency of this new tradition. So the moon in Taurus is manifesting those traditions. Pluto in Capricorn at step 29 is still testing. So the result of all this is, with Pluto in Capricorn, that you end up having a shift of who's in power, how power is allocated, how power is shared. And I think that's one of the big things I'm noticing in the new Wii era, is in the Wii era, not to be confused with Nintendo, in the Wii era, power is shared. It's not concentrated at the top. So Pluto is working in the background to share that power. Mars in Cancer, however, is ruffling feathers. Mars in Cancer this week goes from step 20 to step 23, Mars in Cancer. And from 20 to 23, that means the ego now is adding some pressure to the we. Everyone's ego is adding pressure to the we. By the end of the week, we're at step 23, which indicates that we will come to a knowing of what needs to happen. Venus in Scorpio is opening up now to all sorts of degrees and energies, in the sense that from step 23 to 2 degrees Sag, we open up to all of the boundaries necessary to make that we happen. In other words, with the sun in the high degrees, 20 degrees of Libra, and Venus in the high 20 degrees of Scorpio, you're basically negotiating what will be best for the balance of everyone. You're negotiating all those things, but then you're also, with Venus in that space, realizing how those new deals must be protected, realizing how those new deals must be honored by everyone, realizing where the boundaries are, what can and can't happen, basically setting up the parameters or the shell for that we to continue in a great way. It would also be the opening up to necessary changes to change tradition. As I said, tradition will change. And so that means that we have to change some other things that operate. So, hopefully with Venus in this space, you won't feel threatened, because she sort of softens the transition necessary, the energy necessary for a transition. But, nonetheless, with Venus there also, perhaps if it's a part of life that is inflamed, like this is something we've been fighting about for 20 years, and we need to finally draw the line, yes, Venus will make it very intense. Remember, Venus is like a magnifying glass. It brings the energy very close so we can examine it, but the result is our experience is more intense, all right? In Pisces, it's tick-tock, tick-tock. Saturn at step 13, calling for us to elevate our spiritual timeline to the next level where we belong. This is in daily life. So I'd say most of the work is happening in daily life. That's where the platform is that you must, in fact, find the line. But Neptune retrograding back to step 27 means as soon as you figure this out, boom, the timeline shifts. So we have a 1-2 punch going on in Pisces, changing out that old karma. And lastly, we have Uranus, which is retrograded to step 26 Taurus. 26 is the devotion degree. So we are redevoting ourselves to a new plan. We're devoting ourselves once again to the old plan. Uranus going retrograde, meaning it's moving downward, meaning that some things are being deconstructed so they can be constructed. Some things are falling apart so things can be built again later. I would say if something falls apart now, it is absolutely meant to. All right. So try not to save something that's not going to last. The test of time. Even if finances are connected to it with Taurus, because Uranus is going to go station direct, that investment will pay off. I mean, any investment will pay off to some degree from 26 to 0 Gemini. Any investment will pay off. There's a little bit of margin here still, in the growth of Uranus. So if it's falling apart, don't worry. There are options still to capitalize on that in the future. So in essence, just to summarize here this next week, it really is about, finding what we feel the best about, right? Drawing those boundaries around them. And probably the biggest part of this transition, or let's say the biggest test of whether or not this we will work, will be the full moon in Aries. So to get stronger on that, I'd say go steep yourself some tea and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello friends, welcome to Tea Time Horoscopes, which we know will be retitled Soul Horoscopes, going back to my original brand here in the future. So you might hear me say tea, you might hear me say soul. I'll go back and forth. I love rebranding. It's just part of my life. And this week I want to, drill down mostly on the most powerful moments that are happening this week. And I think probably the most powerful, of course, is the full moon. The full moon, which apexes at 7:26 a.m. at 24 degrees and 35 minutes. I'm going to start reporting on the minutes. That's part of the feature of my book coming out, getting to the minutes of it as well. And this full moon, of course, happens on early Thursday morning here in the United States anyways. By the way, if you're on SiriusStory.com, you'll be able to translate where that is in your neck of the woods just by going to our homepage. Ultimately, this opposition comes down to the sun. The sun is in Libra, let's say. Well, it is. It's in Libra, and the sun is in Libra, and it's at step 24. And the importance there is that sun at step 24 says that that's a grandmaster degree of Libra. Grandmaster. Why is it grandmaster? Because it adds to a 6. And 6 is when you have 3 on both sides. 6 is when things are most balanced. So the sun is saying, hey, my heart wants to find the perfect balance in the we. That's the heart's intention, the sun. I want to find the perfect balance in the we. The full moon in Aries, okay, is in the consciousness of character, ego, defenses. That higher degree is our defense shield, so to speak, from the world, what allows us for things to bounce off us and bounce back. And so in the shielding, in the behavior, in the character of who we are, that's where the full moon is going to rip apart anything that is in the way, okay, in the way on the earth, split them apart from each of those having their intentions. Mostly the intention of the sun. Our heart wants to find equilibrium and wants to find balance in our day-to-day or the we. Now the moon at 24 Aries is going to then pull and shake and change certain behavior patterns, which you could call our traditions. The high degree of Aries is our traditions. This is what we traditionally do. And Aries is all about do. It's not about think or concept. It's about do. And so you have this, in order to have balance over here, we must have change in behavior so that we can do better and so we can maintain that things happen. So in each of your 12 horoscopes today, I'll talk about that balance in your life and what you can do and stop doing and what you're wanting to achieve with the sun in Libra. Then I will go on to talk about 2 more data points. One is that we have the sun squaring Mars, which I didn't have time to talk about in our open here, happening on Monday, very early in the morning here in the United States, 2:15 while we're sleeping. But that Sun square Mars is a biggie because it means that you are going to really have a heart-to-heart with your own ego and realize that in some cases your heart is not realistic. In some cases your ego is out of line or going too far or being too defensive. So that square is going to really set the stage for this week. So I'll be talking about that stage being set. And then I want to talk about our Pluto dozer. That's what I'm calling it now, like a bulldozer, a Pluto dozer. Our Pluto dozer, I want to remind you of where the Pluto dozer with Pluto Direct, which has been for almost a week now by the time this is discussed, how it's going to bulldoze down any of the old, one person at the top architecture of power to the we power, we the people power. And that's what it is, we the people. Our forefathers had it. We just haven't implemented it correctly, is my opinion. And some people ask me off camera, I'll just say right now, I've asked many times on podcasts and things, they keep asking me, will the United States continue? Yes, absolutely, 100%. It's a doctrine of heaven that's coming down here. I'm not saying we are an expression of that, but it is a doctrine of heaven. And in other words, from what I understand, the Ascended Masters, all the angels, they all went into that Constitution, which represented a document that would keep we the people for everyone in the world. And that would mean hopefully it spreads in a good way later. So let's move on now to our soul horoscope. And we'll start with the one that always is the trailblazer of life, the Aries. Aries, your heart is accepting and receiving a new policy of marriage and partnership. This isn't just a specific marriage or a specific partnership. If you are starting a partnership right now, that partnership resembles the new policy. So this is a policy and a major policy until further notice. The universe doesn't have a lot of planets coming to deal in Libra for a while. This is the policy for a while. Now, you have this policy that you want. However, the full moon in Aries means that you're going to have to release old attitudes, old arrogance, old character definitions of yourself. But I'm a this, but I'm a that. Let it go. Release and reset is really what this full moon is. I'm going to release the old and reset to a neutral. I recommend really not implementing any new actual behavior plans. Like if they call me up, I'm going to yell at them. I would not put any intentions of behavior on it. I would, from this point forward, call it in the moment, okay? But it does mean that Aries walks away with a shiny new character, a shiny new expression of themselves that is more representative of their true feelings. And in their heart of hearts, they are now approaching relationships from a we balanced perspective. The Sun squaring Mars, which is a theme for the entire week, has to do with your emotional security and these marriage partnerships. So, finding the balance of moving forward to stay secure and stay emotionally grounded and sound against, wanting this, marriage partnership to work well, wanting the marriage partnership to work well, wanting all relationships to work well. It means in some cases you have to alter how you approach emotion. That's how it is. They're not going to change anymore. It's the way you approach emotion that might be the issue. And don't forget the Pluto dozer is actually changing, breaking down, transforming your power toward your legacy. These changes you're making will help you toward your legacy or pull you away from your legacy. So pretty powerful, I think, work for the Aries. Taurus. We'll go to Taurus. Taurus, your heart is seeking lifestyle and high performance. Oh my God, that's so true. That has been what I'm seeking my whole week. It's been, I just want a good lifestyle and high performance. Our hearts are trying to bring in a good lifestyle and high performance. And this is in our ability to achieve, our ability to make milk and cheese and every other thing and all the spin-off brands and all the legacy. So we want to achieve this high performance. But in order to do this, the full moon is going to call in for you to have a shift when it comes to your relationship to God and whatever your cornerstone of faith is. Relationship to God is obvious, right? How we relate to God. Cornerstone of faith has to do with something else. Like it's sort of the Willy Wonka ticket, it's sort of the secret thing you have under the hood, it's sort of the secret technology. There's something that gives you a cornerstone of faith and you have your relationship to God. The full moon adjusts that, or at least allows you to see it. The Sun squaring Mars means that all week you have to reconcile that if you want this lifestyle and performance to really pay off, you've got to get better at your master planning. You've got to plan in a different way. You have got to realize that the way you plan is maybe not efficient enough. The way you plan is not taking emotion into consideration as a consequence of what ends up happening. So master planning has got to be polished. And don't forget the Pluto dozer, Pluto. The Pluto dozer is actually tearing down old life purpose and old beliefs about what you are to be. So what I'm noticing for me is my life purpose has never been closer and more on target. But what has changed is who I give authority to and what I give authority to in order to make it happen. That's what's changing for me. It's the authority aspect of my purpose. The purpose itself is well worked out. Okay, on to the next one. Gemini. Gemini, your heart is seeking personal dreams to come true and true love to happen. That's what Geminis want. They want to be happy. As my son used to say, I'm happy now, Dad. I'm happy now. That's what Geminis want. They want to be happy now, and they want their dreams to come true. Doesn't everybody? Well, no. Not if you don't have this kind of astrological focus on you. So that's the intention of the heart, is for those things, personal dreams and true love. What has to change is to release, first of all of your emotional prejudice and heartache or anger around your global image, like what your image is. Well, the whole family just sees me as this, or the company, they always look down at me. You have to emotionally let go of that. You can't keep it in order to make this happen. And you have to also change what you've been campaigning for. Maybe you've been campaigning to get your family to buy in. Maybe you've been campaigning to tell everyone for a raise. Let that go as well. Reset your global image, reset your campaign that you have, and that will be what allows you to have your personal dreams and true love come true. The plan suggests that if you don't, it may not happen. Now, the sun squaring Mars means that you must consider these personal dreams and abundant returns. Yes, you can have the dream, but which one pays the most money? Yes, you can have the dream, but does it even get in the way of your abundant return? We want to return abundantly on our investments. So I guess keep your eye on the, basically on the bottom line. And remember, your Pluto dozer is around alchemy, boundaries, and self-trust. You have to change what you give power and what you don't give power to in order to transform your life. In some cases, you're holding on the keys to something that you don't have to hold the keys to, and you are insisting on being in control of something that you might be able to delegate to. Stay liquid, I would say, in regards to staying liquid. Okay, moving on to our next one. Cancer. Cancer, you are working on the most important thing in your entire life, and I can't say any stronger than that. Your emotional security and homeland nutrition. I love that word, homeland nutrition. I came with that today. I'm really in the zone of creativity right now, which I love, all the new flowers. But for Cancer, this means that you need a grounded place where you feel secure, that emotional security is inside of you. So you might have the house, you might have all those pieces in place, but you may not feel emotionally secure. You may not feel nutrition. You may not feel like you are in a nutrient environment in your home or your situation. So you're looking for balance and equilibrium in these two things, security and nutrition. Now, the moon in Aries says you must first release and reset when it comes to your legacy, that's career, and your key objectives. What you have been holding on to is the number one thing. Cancers do hold on by nature because you have those two claws, okay? Those two claws hold on to stuff. They don't let go. So those claws are holding on to some legacy that I thought I was going to be this. I was supposed to be that. No, the world's changing. It turns out it'll be a modified version of that, or it won't be that at all. It'll actually be something gooder, something you'll enjoy and more goodly, all right? And also your key objectives. Was your objective to seek revenge and show them who's in power? Was your objective to love yourself? Was your objective to love them? Whatever the objective is, perhaps let go of it and release it, and let's see if it snaps back on its own. So in order to have this emotional security and homeland nutrition, you must let go of this old idea of who you're going to be and what your objectives used to be, and really look at the one that brings peace and harmony to you. Now, the entire week, of course, we have the effects of the sun squaring Mars. And for Cancers, this means that your character, your ego, this is where you have to change the way you do it, change the way you respond, change the way you say it, change the way it's expressed, basically, is necessary for homeland security, emotional nutrition. It makes them up for fun, will happen. But remember, your Pluto dozer, where things will knock you down, or where you can knock things down, is around marriage, partnerships, or your me rich, all right, the whole spectrum when you're in Pluto 29. So you have to remain flexible in what you give power to inside yourself in your relationships and in your marriage. Okay. Leos. Leos, you seek, basically, is what I'm trying to say, to accept and receive new plans that you have for the future, and to accept and receive a new message and a new tone that you have. So the king or queens of the jungle have got to be in a place where their planning is more balanced, their planning is more refined, their planning is more beautiful. They planned beautifully for it. And as a result, their message around that plan is clean and their tone is also cool. So that's the plan with the sun in Libra in this final full moon. You want to end up as a master planner with a great message and a great tone. Now, the moon that goes full in Aries is bringing light to your life's purpose and your treasure map. The treasure map is how you thought you'd get it, where you thought the treasure was. This full moon says and suggests that indeed it's not there, and that it shouldn't even be the treasure, because that's not what your heart really wants. You're just going after the treasure for treasure's sake, or going after the treasure to prove to someone that you could get treasure. But really the purpose and the aspects of the purpose, you want to release and reset those emotional expectations, and release and reset any sort of blockages that come up, or pain that comes up to cause you to not see clearly. Now, over the course of the entire week, with Mars squaring the sun, it means that your relationship to God needs to be refined, and one should respond to their emotions in relation to that in deep ways. So in other words, if normally you would blame God, maybe you should thank God and try it out, or give God half the blame. Like, change the way you emotionally respond when the universe doesn't go your way. As the universe, by the way, king of the universe. Now, where the Pluto dozer is at effect is work, lifestyle, routines, and body in the moment. How you feel in the moment, how you embody the moment. This is where you must change what you give power to, is that whole spectrum of consciousness, because anywhere along that line, it could be the hiccup and the giddy up that's allowing you to do what you really want, particularly your relationship to God. Mars in Cancer, that's a biggie, as Mars is now opposing Pluto and starting to build a tension between these two. All right, moving on. Virgo. Virgo, your heart seeks to come into an equilibrium and a flow, which is actually something I should have said from the beginning for everyone. Flow, an equilibrium flow with abundant returns. You want abundant returns on your investment. And right now, your heart and your issues and your fears of balance or being out of balance might be throwing off your balance when it comes to money. The other aspect that you're looking for is sustained growth. We want growth, but we want growth to sustain, to keep growing over time. So those are the goals. The heart wants to have abundant return. The heart wants to always keep growing, not to have to keep putting energy into it, etc. Now, the full moon, however, in Aries at 24 degrees is calling for transformation of your life and an alchemy science. In other words, we're going to turn this spare wood into this. We're going to turn this bitter truth into a learning lesson. We're going to transform that. So emotionally, you have to release and reset what hasn't worked, release and reset the trespassing, release and reset where someone crossed the line, that's trespassing, release and reset where you can't seem to open up to do it. All those issues around sensitivity with boundaries must be addressed for this heart to have abundant returns and sustained growth. Now, the Mars square says through the whole week, for you to have this abundant return, you've got to change the way your ego responds to the public. Stop responding certain ways to your global image. That image that you have built is going to go away because you're about to reinvent yourself in such a profound way. So be mindful of how your ego is responding to the feelings coming in the door in those categories. And your Pluto dozer, by the way, is the golden egg or romantic part of you. You may still be having some power issues where you want to redistribute power amongst anything invested in personal dreams. So maybe you're trying to take too much power from the vendor you've hired. Maybe you are giving someone too much power to affect your dreams. And so that's what you're subtly finding is, where's the line as it relates to power in my personal dreams? So overall, I'd say for Virgos, it's very powerful here. Global image, changing your life, making money in personal dreams. You got a good one for once, Virgo. You're ahead of the game there. Libra. Libra, it's your birthday period. And you know what? This has been a hell of a year. And I'm happy to tell you that what you've gone through in the last few months, I've been talking to a lot of Libras. It's funny, I'll go out and I'll track Libras. I'll be like, what's your sign? They're like, Libra. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. one of the proofs of astrology, like all the Libras are coming to me, or I'm running into them, whereas normally they'd be not there. What you were doing ultimately is coming into a new character and coming into a new plot action plan. How do I want this to plot out? How do I want this to happen? How do I want this to unfold? You want a peaceful, easy riding feeling. That's a song lyric that will allow you to just coast down the highway. Oh, here we go. These are all 70 songs. And be able to really ride peacefully towards what's next, which is making money. That's next transit. So you're trying to like find the peaceful way of your character and ego and your plot action plan. The full moon in Aries happens in the house of marriage and partnership. So is in your marriage and partnership that you must do a release and reset. You have to let it all emotionally go. The more you say, let it go and let it flow, and the less you hold at the time of the apex will make the full moon easier, but also make the journey easier, because there's a lot of scar tissue and a lot of fire built up around those relationships, and they frankly don't apply. It won't be useful data to take it to the next set. So they have to be let go of and shaken off with the full moon. Now, the square to Mars in Cancer says to the sun, if you're going to be this new character, if you're going to be this new action plan, then how you respond to how well your career is going has to change. You can't rev yourself up emotionally and be worried about it. You can't be lethargic and not step up when you needed to. If you want career to work out and you want character action plan and pilot action plan to work out, then you've got to, says the astrology, be a bit more sensitive and respond to your feelings as necessary around career and legacy in the making. And the Pluto dozer for you is around your family, okay? Your family, your emotional security, your emotional relationship to yourself and your family members, your emotional relationship to anyone you would call or classify as family. This is where the Pluto dozer is just blaring through and forcing you to get a new grip on where the power needs to be distributed. And so it does need some power distribution. It's not just your job, for instance, to make the family feel better, Libra. It's actually everyone's job. So maybe that's it. You're still owning that hat, and the universe is saying, throw it out the window. All right. Scorpio. Scorpio, you are actually changing your relationship to God and also creating your cornerstone of faith. And so your relationship to God, first of all, is an emotional relationship based on your heart. And so you're trying to come into a calm, calm blue ocean where the universe has got you, where you feel like God has got you. But then the other, which is new to me that downloaded today, was the cornerstone of faith. What is your cornerstone of faith? Is it money in the bank? Is it this? Is it that? Identify your cornerstone of faith that says, hey, no matter what, if this happens, I'll be okay. That's your cornerstone of faith. Now, the full moon in Aries says it's all going to come up in your lifestyle. Health, lifestyle issues, details of your life, details of a change of life, a transformation of life. This is the emotional agitation that the full moon will bring. And so you want to release all of the past. You can't necessarily hold on to fears of the past or what's happened to you or what they did in their old work record. I know a lot of Scorpios. I'm about to see one actually here, a triple threat, where I know it'll be brought up in my face, the past. And I will say to this person, hey, did you know the full moon calls for you to release all that? Of which you'll say, don't use astrology to manage me. But the point is that it is time now to let go of the lifestyle errors and where you weren't able to perform, where you felt held back, and give yourself an emotionally balanced palette for the full moon to take you to the next level. Now, when it comes to your life's purpose, there's been a lot of back and forth with that and trying to do this cornerstone and have this faith. Right now, you're having to change, the feelings you respond to around life purpose. So you may feel like I'm not on my purpose. Okay, but what feelings came up? What feelings did you allow to come up? How did you extinguish those feelings back to neutrality, or just let them burn down the whole forest? That's sort of the question there. Now, the Pluto dozer, however, is around your thoughts, your attitude, your logic, your self-dialogue, you talking to yourself. That's what has to actually change to the core or to get burned down. It's basically your intellectual state of awareness is full of inflexible absolutes and demands, basically. That's what Scorpios do. They just absolutely demand it must be this way. And so that is the issue where you're not having enough flexibility, and the friction itself could be causing a lot of friction in the world. All right. We're going to switch bottles now. Two-fisted drinker. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, your heart is now trying to bring balance to your global image and national campaigns. You are highly hyper aware of the way the public or your world see you, and you're wanting to have a nice, peaceful, easy way to go about it. You want things to flow with you in the public. You want things to move forward on your campaigns that you have. Maybe your campaign for your children to start brushing their teeth, or your campaign at work for them to start listening to what you have to say. So this campaign is in play, right? But it will not last without the moon's change, or the change of the moon. The full moon has to do with issues around personal dreams and true love. You are harboring emotional issues around personal dreams and true love. And the harboring might be you just experiencing it and never forgetting. But what this says is your global image and national campaign is literally up for term as to not work if you are still harboring feelings of lost love, creative projects failing, children issues, issues with your babies. So this is the full moon apex, is to release and reset the personal dreams and true love issues. Now, all week long, Mars in Cancer is asking you to respond to your feelings differently for a different outcome in the we. So the we will only change if you change how you feel personally about it. And yes, you can change how you feel personally. Anyone can change how they feel personally. Some of it comes from rationalizing it, and some of it comes from simply finding and getting help and support from others. Now, where your Pluto dozer is hitting you is around money, income, sales, and self-worth. You're going to have to change the way you emotionally manage those qualities of money and whatnot, if you're going to really be clear for takeoff with your new global image. All righty. Moving on to the next one. There he is. Capricorn. Capricorn, you are now ready to put your legacy in the making. You're ready to move on to your key objectives in life, not just your key objectives this week or this month or this quarter, in life, okay? And for you to be in a nice flow as far as where you're going towards those key objectives and legacy in the making, the full moon in Aries says you must release and reset issues that prevent you from having emotional security, issues that keep you from having homeland nutrition. In other words, emotional things that you are harboring that disrupt your overall security. You're still pissed off about what your landlord said, or you're still upset about what your kids did to the backyard. Allowing that to fester and continue is actually part of what's throwing off the security. Now, homeland nutrition is, am I absorbing and getting the things I need in my homeland environment? And so you want to release things that prevent you from really being nourished, emotionally comforted in your homeland situation. Now, the square to Mars says that for you to have this legacy in the making, the way your ego, Mars, responds to your marriage, responds to your partners, the way your ego responds in those areas, it's stirring up emotion, but it's not settling things and making things better. And so it's making things to some degree worse. So be willing to respond differently to your feelings about marriage and partnership. And the Pluto dozer, of course, is hitting you right in the action of character, behavior, and how you respond to yourself. You have, the lines aren't very clear, or the rules aren't very clear in that capacity. So just be flexible in character and your behavior, which includes what you initiate and how you respond. That's also technically your behavior. All right. Now we switch it to water. Moving on to the next one. Aquarius. Aquarius, you are now making a nice balanced runway for your life's purpose. And this runway is for takeoff, by the way, for takeoff. So you're basically bulldozing your runway for takeoff. We can't have the age of Aquarius without the Aquariuses. Now, underneath that is a treasure map as well. And this map looks like it's very much marked the targets of where X marks the spot. But perhaps you're not in an equilibrium or a sense of balance and harmony about these choices, because they're probably very weird and different from everyone else would do, or different from what every sign would do. Now, the full moon in Aries is where the issue is. You will need to release feelings that trigger and mess up your master planning, and feelings that trigger and prevent you from having the right message or delivering it with the right tone. So you have your planning, your message, and your tone are littered with the emotional baggage of the past, okay? And so they must be reset and released. And that will give you a new emotional attitude, a fresh one, going forward. Now, the square to Mars says that as you were trying to bring this light purpose, you've got to respond to your own lifestyle differently. You've got to respond to the feelings in your lifestyle differently. You can't keep getting pissed when the newspaper ends up on the yard, that type of thing. You've got to have a new response that keeps you in a nice, balanced life. And Pluto, your Pluto dozer, is basically Plutoing down anything left over that gets in the way with your relationship to God, your understanding of faith, your psychic abilities, and overall your connections to past lives and connections to higher self. So there's areas there that's been distributed incorrectly, or the wall has remained up, or you've given way too much to God, and you have some of it taken back for you. But overall, that spiritual line, that's where the transformation must be for the Aquas. All right, and one for the road. And then lastly, the Pisces. Pisces, you are manifesting your heart, a transformation of your life, and an alchemy science in your life. So you're going to turn lemons into lemonade. You're going to turn fish into fish sticks. Oh, was that too bad? You're going to turn parts of your life that don't work into parts of your life that do work. And you want to find a nice balance with life, a nice balance with yourself in life. For that to happen, the full moon in Aries says you have to release emotions and reset your emotions around money, abundance, and the fact that you keep going up and down in your stock market and finances. So those emotions of frustration need to be let go and released so you can find a new harmony when it comes to making money and flowing with that money. Now, the square to Mars says that your ego's response to true love, creative projects, your ego's response to music, your ego's response to your children, this response needs to be more emotionally mature. So you're emotionally maturing in those responses to all those things close to the heart. That is absolutely necessary for you to change your life. So you could say that you want to change your life, but you keep getting all pissed off about this, and this. Your heart is still angry. Let the anger go, reset that emotion, and be prepared to learn how to nurture that part of yourself from this point forward. The Pluto dozer for you is around your social influence, public relations, how you belong with yourself. So you'll find those boundaries still need to be moved a bit. You'll find that there's some letting go of things that really aren't your responsibility, but you're taking them as a responsibility, and to hone in and protect your real purpose in life and where it is that you belong. Overall, you can see for the Pisces, you are definitely being prepared for center stage as we end the age of Pisces and begin the dawn of the age of Aquarius. All right, friends, that's all we have for now. But guess what? Coming up, we have a wonderful interview on Astro Mingle. We're going to talk about Kundalini with one of the best out there. Keep streaming for Ravi Singh. I'll be back after a couple commercials. From Saturday, October 12th to Friday, October 18th, 2024. Looking ahead at the weekend forecast, we transition from the intermediate to the master level of Libra. You can expect to be challenged on whether or not it will go through. Most of the lesson is holding faith. On Saturday, it's sunny and suspenseful. Step 19 means net 10 rules a day. That's a Taurus energy or Earth. This means we are waiting for things to manifest. This is the nail biter, where you might be worried that it'll work out or not. And Chiron sextiles Jupiter, helping you to heal the story. But with the moon in Aquarius, you'll have the ability at least to detach and not take it personally. On Sunday, it's sunny and amicable. Step 20 means the moon is ruling the day, and the moon is in two parts. The first part of the day in Aquarius, the second part in Pisces, meaning things will move from detached to rather sensitive. In this day, you are receiving all the feelings about this particular transit and setting the guardrails should something go wrong. Also, there are 5 major aspects on this day. The most interesting, Mercury squaring Pluto, a perhaps mental challenge of power. Zipping forward now to the 5-day weekday forecast. Over the course of the work week, we feel ourselves open up to new possibilities, have a breakthrough, and by Friday, you're seeking faith. On Monday, it's sunny and forgiving. Step 21 means Jupiter retrograde rules the day. This is a day where you will receive a plot twist, a surprise. A new story will begin. Also, the sun squaring Mars may bring some tremors of energy between ego and heartfelt intentions. The moon in Pisces makes things rather sensitive. But Venus opposing Uranus at step 27 means there's definitely a change of plans. On Tuesday, it's cloudy and karmic. Step 22 means Uranus rules the day. Expect the unexpected. You'll receive an upgrade overall to your perception of what relationships must be going forward. You're encouraged to choose the highest frequency possible. Things tense up when the moon will shift from Pisces into Aries, but Venus trines Neptune, perhaps answering prayers in a way you never imagined. On Wednesday, it's sunny and impulsive. Step 23 indicates Mercury now rules the day. Your thoughts are taking over. In that mental space, you receive a vision. An emotional transformation, therefore, is in the works. Also, the moon moves from aggressive Aries to calm blue ocean Taurus, but the sun conjoins Juno at step 23, which means this big plan you have is going to stick. On Thursday, it's sunny and relieved. Step 24 means that Venus is ruling this day. It's not just a day, it's the full moon in Aries at step 24, which means you will receive an agreement or a compromise. You'll realize this is the way. The moon in Taurus will make it feel like it's going to last, and Venus enters into Sagittarius, opening up to optimism and hope. And then on Friday, it's cloudy but grounded. Step 25 says Neptune is ruling the day, so there's days of moments of going through space-time issues, but what you receive in that spiritual energy is you receive grace. You can feel in your soul this is the start of a new chapter. Now with the moon in Taurus, and so it is.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
Wild Pack, it's Mama Bear, aka Bernadette, the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle certification class that you guys have asked me for 4 years. 4 years you've been asking. It's finally coming. It will be out this week. If we haven't met yet, I'm Mama Bear, and I always read with my own deck, the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck, 223-page book. There are 149 cards. It's a big old deck, but there were a lot of animals that wanted to be in it. And animals don't play. When they want something, they want it. And that's that. So just give up the ghost and just do what you're supposed to do, please, which is follow your heart, follow your calling, follow your, oh, wait, what are they called? Natural instincts? Ha ha!
Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented lightworkers and innovative influencers of our time. Since Master Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, that I read years ago, I've been fascinated with the spiritual science behind the science, in the sense of, in tonight's case, how yoga could be the foundation of meditation and the access portal to energies we don't understand. Tonight's guest is an expert opinion on the topic. Internationally celebrated Kundalini Yoga teacher Ravi Singh has 45 plus years of teaching experience. He, along with Anna Brett, is the author of the Kundalini Yoga book, Life in the Vast Lane, and many other offerings. He's the founder of Evolving Kundalini, a new paradigm for Kundalini Yoga education. Ravi's approach is powerful, inspiring, moving, soulful, and fun. His classes have been called life-changing and life-saving both. Ravi inspires students to access their inner vitality to shine, to prosper, and excel in every area of their lives. So tonight, please join me in sending waves of love and light and gratitude to my guest, Step 28 Virgo, Ravi Singh. Hello.
Hi, Christopher. It's great to be here.
Great for you to have you here. It's nice. Oh, I heard your voice. I was like, oh, he's coming from above.
Thank you for
Nice
the
to meet you,
Virgo.
sir.
Thank you for the Virgo tips, by the way.
Oh, really? You're welcome. Well, you know, in our system, 28 Virgo is a master Virgo of manifestation, with the root intention of manifestation, that you're here to bring things to life we've never seen before. And with Virgo, that means quality, that means incredible attention to detail, etc. You probably know that, sir. Would you say that's your intention?
Yes, to make the non-obvious obvious.
Oh, interesting. That's very interesting. So there's a lot I want to ask you, because I have been fascinated with this art and science of yoga for a long time. I mentioned Yogananda's book, which is sort of a staple in our community. At some point, we go into yoga. First of all, what is Kundalini Yoga? That's it's something that seems to become very popular in California, for instance, as I was living there for a while. What is it, and how is it separate from the others we know?
Well, I like to cite Kundalini Yoga as the greatest hits of the saints and sages of the ages. It's the bottom line mechanisms for happiness, health, and spiritual uplift. So it's really a compendium of what works. And what works is conscious breathing, what I call the beautiful names, which are mantras, sacred sequences we call kriyas, and then
Hmm.
and rhythm and resonance. So you put all these together and it gives us a way to multitask multidimensionally and still have time for a life. Ultimately, it's about, we want to make our life our yoga and our yoga our life.
So I've had just one introduction to a class. It seemed intense. Um, it seemed intense, like a lot more intense than I thought. In the classification of yoga, I had to work my butt off in that class. Was I in a rogue class, or is that how it goes?
Well, there is that, it's the warrior archetype figures prominently in Kundalini
Yeah.
Yoga. It's
Yeah.
really an inner school of Sikhism and their warriors. But of
Mm.
course, there's a hard side as well.
Mm.
It does, it balances everything out. But it is based on the premise that, we're capable of way more than we think we are. And
Mhm.
when we discover that, that can carry over into our lives.
That's beautiful. And getting deeper into Kundalini, does it tap into the Kundalini energy that we're known to have, to be the base of our spine? Is that part of that
Yeah.
relationship to the practice?
The one thing that we're trying to do in Kundalini Yoga is allow this energy of our higher potential to flow. So the definition of Kundalini is life itself. And it's simply a matter of letting our life energy flow. Life evolves, life aspires, life flourishes, and life is in us. And so really what Kundalini Yoga is a way to not block our life, to not block life, to let the universe flow through us.
Interesting. And I've been told that Kundalini energy is part of the climax of sexual connection. Is that true? Is the actual energy a part of it, or only if you know the secrets is it a part of it?
Well, energy is energy. So really we're talking about union. So what Kundalini represents is a higher form of union. And this idea that Kundalini is somehow sexual energy, it's all kinds of energy. It's third chakra, it's fourth chakra, it's all the energies.
Okay.
So I think that it's a little bit of a mischaracterization to say it's sexual energy. It's all energy.
Well, of course, like America and the world, sex
Exactly.
sells. So that's probably how they sold it. If I was a forefather, and I might have focused on that aspect too, just to get it off the ground, right? It'll work. So when you say union energy, are you saying literally union with everything? So my union with my son, my union with my community, all that is Kundalini energy.
Yes, that's a very good way to state it. Ultimately, of course, yoga means union with God, but it's also union with one another, union with the universe, being part of all that is.
Interesting. So it's kind of the antivenom to the ego in a way, because the ego is separation, and
Exactly.
And so this is the anecdote that God created. It's this Kundalini force inside of us.
So you could say the first chakra would be me, and the seventh would be thee. And we want to kind of strike a balance between the two, as you stated before.
Me and thee. That's interesting. So what inspired you to teach Kundalini for these last almost 50 years plus?
Yeah, I moved to New York to be a writer, and I was already doing Kundalini Yoga. I started in college in Chicago in like 73 or something, and I started giving classes to my friends, dancers, musicians, poets, and I saw this amazing transformation taking place consistently. And I said, the reason I wanted to be a writer was I want to make a difference. And I said to myself, this is making a difference. I want to do this. And it just kept going and kept getting opportunities, and I haven't stopped.
So that Kundalini energy, you're just unioning everything, right? Connected to everything.
Yeah. So we want people, another way to define Kundalini is spirit rising. It's the motivating force within us, our creative potential. So when people tap into that, they can live their excellence. They can live lit up. They can fire on all cylinders. And that's really the definition of Kundalini.
So say that again, Kundalini rising.
So Kundalini means spirit rising.
Spirit rising.
Spirit is, you could say, it's the motivating force within us.
Wow.
So when we access this energy, this evolutionary energy in us, we begin to blossom in all ways.
Got you. It's making me realize that we have a major Kundalini deficit in this country. Nothing.
Very
That
good.
spirit is missing. Yeah, that spirit is missing. That has, I can't speak for any other nation, but that has, that this country was founded on a sort of that rising spirit of potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Kundalini is meant to be the default setting for the human, but the reason that people don't access it is because of trauma and wounding and low self-esteem. Those are the big blocks. And so part of what Kundalini Yoga does, it strengthens the nervous system and helps us purify the psyche and the ego so that we can heal those things.
Does Kundalini help to heal those specific things you mentioned, trauma and
Yes.
insecurity?
Yes, it's very, very adaptable to that. And there are, scientific studies that they've taken certain Kundalini meditations and used it for trauma and other things, learning disabilities, and the results are pretty amazing. And that's only one technique. So in the Kundalini canon, there are hundreds of techniques.
Okay. And so we don't have to be that warrior, sweat it out to do a Kundalini meditation, you're saying, and still get some benefits of the practice.
No, you don't. You can be exactly where you are and who you are, and anyone can do Kundalini Yoga.
Okay.
So what you experienced in that class, that was one aspect of it, but not all of it.
Okay, got you. So how would you define the overall practice then? I'm assuming it's twisting myself in a pretzel, but there's other aspects to it. You're saying meditation.
Yeah, well, traditionally Kundalini Yoga is a householder's yoga. So in Hatha Yoga, to raise your Kundalini, you basically have to turn your back on the world and be a renunciate.
Okay.
But Kundalini Yoga is a tantric system, and Tantra is the coincidence of opposites, and it means that you can reconcile things that you wouldn't think you can reconcile. So it means that you can be in the world and have relationships and still raise your Kundalini. And what a Kundalini class is, we do some warm-ups, some maybe spine flexes and twists, and then we do what's called a Kriya, which is a sequence that has a synergistic exponential effect. It's called sacred sequencing. We're multitasking multidimensionally. Then we'll relax, and then we'll do a meditation. So that would be the template for a typical Kundalini class. And again, there's various levels of it. So what you experienced was a little on the extreme side, but anyone can do it. If you can breathe, you can do it.
In honesty, I went to a Kundalini class in Los Angeles at a time when I think it was the Me Too movement. So I was surrounded by some intense female warriors that were claiming their power back, and I could not keep up at all. I felt like this is harder than anything I'd ever done before. It's one of those things that I'm still thinking back about whether I should do it again. But that's not the typical you're saying.
Yeah, our approach is a little softer. We want to be a little bit more accessible because people need this now. This is the time. This is the pivot point in our human evolution. So we want to make this as accessible as possible without throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah, would you go a little further on that by why you feel this is the time? I mean, you're obviously a person who's not just looking at your practice, but how it serves the time. How do you define the time right now, sir?
Well, we're at a supreme pivot point, and we're leaving the Piscean age and going into the age of Aquarius, and there's a tug of war. There's a battle going on for the human soul, and it's important that we all wake up, important that we come into awareness, and we need methodologies to help us do that. So I think that Kundalini Yoga was made for times like this. This is it's all come down to this. I think the sense of urgency is something we all feel. It's time to coalesce in consciousness.
You mentioned Kundalini was made for times like this. Was it? What's the origin of Kundalini that you know of?
Well, we can trace it to various cultures and histories we know it, but I'm pretty certain that this comes from civilizations before history as we know it. I do believe that there were very advanced civilizations that were wiped out in the cataclysms that happened maybe 11, 12,000 years ago. And the diaspora, the remnants of those civilizations became the teachers for the survivors. that humanity had to kind of start over. And I think that Kundalini Yoga goes way, way back, further than we can document, but it's a technology unto infinity, and it was part of human living in the olden days. And
Yeah.
now it's sort of then it kind of went underground, because anything that empowers us is a threat to the powers that are, and we see that now. And it's sort of coming out of the closet now. It's being rediscovered.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, and I feel what you're referring to would be somewhere between the legend of Atlantis and modern times, and that somewhere, it's been talked about. There's evidence of nuclear bombs possibly going off in the areas now known as India. So there's a lot of evidence that there was something that happened out there that history did not record.
Exactly, and I think that things like Atlantis I think it's part of our our blood memory, and that's why I think this myth, keeps going, because I think it's really hearkening back to something that we all kind of recognize or remember.
Yeah, it's holding space. Atlantis and Lemuria, which is, they say now, Mu. It's holding space for the idea of da 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 da. We have this conscious container holding space to it. You were saying too earlier that this was a multidimensional practice. What do you mean by that?
Well, we're more than just a physical container. We're an energetic construct. So we have, for instance, I do a form of numerology called tantric numerology. It's based on the 10 bodies of light. So we're more than just a physical body. We have an auric body. The chakras are part of our energy body. We have what's called the radiant body, the arc line. So those are really almost more important than the physical body in terms of defining who we are. So we really need to work on all our bodies. And as I said before, still have time for a life. So Kundalini Yoga sort of works on all those in tandem.
One size fits all auras kind of thing.
Yeah.
And these, do you feel like that something about modern times has disrupted, such as cell phones or things like that, our connection to these other bodies?
Yes, I think those things are very compromising. Cell phones, external magnetic fields, they disrupt our cells and disrupt our auras. And that's a real thing. And these things are very draining. And we need to find a way to compensate for all these things.
Right. So Kundalini then, therefore, is kind of the garage, the conscious garage. We can go in and get a tune-up and, reset everything. And
exactly. Reset is a perfect word. We need to reset on a regular basis. There are many ways to reset. Intermittent fasting is a way to reset. And cold showers, for instance, is a way to reset, or cold plunges is a way to reset.
Got you.
And Kundalini Yoga is a way to reset, and just sitting down to meditate is a way to reset.
I love that. I love that we have these other tools too. How often would you, in an ideal world, if you get the entire, United States, if you get the United States to all do Kundalini, how many times a week would one do it just to keep us on the right path?
Well, I think if you're a beginner, 2 or 3 times a week, but I think if you're committed to your practice every day, because we're made to do yoga, we need a reset every day.
Yeah. Especially today.
So that would be what I recommend. But if you're a beginner, 2 or 3 times a week would keep you in balance.
Okay. What are some of the misnomers about Kundalini or raising Kundalini? I guess, what is it to raise, and what are the misnomers of raising it?
Well, to raise your Kundalini really means to just live lit up, to let spirit be in evidence in your life. So the signs of an awakened Kundalini is someone that's successful, effective, inspired, bright. If you look up Kundalini on Wikipedia, you'll come across premature Kundalini awakening or Kundalini syndrome. And these are concepts that people have cited for Kundalini overwhelm. But really, in my almost 50 years of teaching, I think that what those things are is the absence of Kundalini. People have compromised nervous systems. People have, emotional blocks, etc. So what many people contribute to Kundalini syndrome is really the absence of Kundalini yoga. So in that sense, it's more dangerous not to do Kundalini yoga, because we want to build up our nervous system. We want to balance our glandular system. We want to clear toxins. And so that's what Kundalini yoga does to pave the way for spirit in our lives.
Okay. So are you suggesting that Wikipedia may be leading to the mischaracterization of something that's good for us?
Exactly.
It's odd. We'll have to look into that. I find that be common among a lot of light worker practices. There's a lot of spin in those, and people are therefore taking what you think is a condition of not to a condition of too much. Like we're overdosing on Kundalini somewhere, huh?
Well, I think it's not Kundalini. People,
of course,
have like an energy experience, and then they attribute it to Kundalini. But really what it is their nervous system is not able to handle life itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I guess can you tell us physically what you believe happens when our Kundalini rises?
I think it just optimizes all systems. I think that it evolves our nervous system. On the evolutionary scale, the organisms with the most evolved nervous systems are the most evolved organisms. So I think what Kundalini does is it evolves us in one lifetime more than science would say is possible.
Huh. Interesting. So we end up evolving faster if we're tapping into this energy, this creation energy, and giving. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Of course, for instance, it will create a global alpha rhythm in our brain waves, meaning that all areas of the brain are firing simultaneously and supporting one another in new ways. And our neurons are firing in novel ways. So things start happening to sort of bring that evolution about.
And of course, each individual leads to community, leads to everything, so it has this cascading effect basically. Through
Exactly.
I would imagine we connect to nature better. I imagine we connect to animals better.
Yeah, we become super sensory.
Oh, that's a great term. Is that yours? Super sensory? That's a great term. All right. I'm gonna say as you say, super sensory. That's a brilliant term. I love it. So the misnomers then are that we can have it could cause blowout, it could go too far, that sort of thing. I guess you've covered that.
So the antidote to that would be Kundalini yoga. That you want to build your nervous system, etc. So energy can flow in you and you can live lit up. It's that simple, I think.
Interesting. How does astrology work in Kundalini? Because I know that, with Vedas and the Vedic astrology system, for instance, that it seems to be sort of a footprint behind a lot of the practices that have come from that region. Does astrology play into Kundalini yoga and its teachings?
Yes, very much. In India, in all ancient cultures, that was a huge part of their religious and spiritual systems. So the astrology is like the cosmic weather. And when we are born, the positions of the heavenly bodies create an energetic template that affects our script going forward. And so if our script then or now is problematic, there are things we can do. For instance, we want to turn a square into two triangles. We want to, so Earth is like the boot camp for the soul. And we want to take problematic aspects and flip them. And so we can take specific aspects, and there are techniques for all of those that we can turn negatives into positives, which I think is the essence of astrology. You want to turn negatives into positives.
I do. Sometimes the negatives are highlighted, and that's a good sales technique. At least in the books I read back in the 60s and 70s here, they got kind of like all based on spooking you. But yeah, I agree. That's a fascinating, and really it's almost a challenge. It's like, it makes challenges rewarding.
Yes. So for instance, if there's a full moon, on one level, it would mean your emotions are roiling and you're maybe more sensitive than in other times. But from a yogic perspective, it's an opportunity. Our glands are primed to secrete in novel ways, and the pineal gland is primed to blossom, and certain states of higher consciousness are more accessible at that time than other times. So we want to use that energy for self-growth.
Interesting. And so what about the new moon then, since you brought it up?
Well, the new moon is for new beginnings. So we want to maybe initiate a practice, and maybe go into the depths of the psyche and do some processing. So there are techniques for that as well.
Got you. That's really interesting. So, do most studios? I mean, it seemed in non-Kundalini studios, some do around the moon, some don't. Is it a common practice for Kundalini yoga centers to incorporate the moons? Is it part of the
Yes,
core
yes.
practice?
In fact, in all yoga systems, the 11th, the new moon, and the 11th day of the moon cycle are very special. Some yogis fast on full moons and Monday, which is Moon Day, and go on liquids only to work with that moon energy.
That's interesting. Do you know? I guess I've always thought Moon Day was just named after Moon Day, but you're making it sound like it's actually energetically, authentically true. That there's something.
According to yoga, it is.
Okay, and is that due to our concept of the cycles of the week, which is a 7-day? Was it a 7-day cycle back in the yoga ancients, or was there a 10-day? I've heard this varies, right?
That I don't know, but I do know that the days of the week are like archetypes.
Yes.
And it's no accident that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there is something about Mondays that has resonance with the moon.
Yeah.
Tuesday
What would be
Mars, Wednesday Mercury, and so on.
I love it. But I've always thought it was just sort of like we didn't have a name for them, so we named it after the planets. But you're making it sound like really it's kind of a cyclical system based on the numbers. So what is the first day of the week in the Kundalini system? Is it Monday?
Yes.
So I mean, on the first day of the new week, on that first day, so that to me would be anytime you call it a first day, it would be a Monday. The fact that we call that first day Monday now is arbitrary. So that's what numerology is, the first step. So you're saying the first step is to let go of food and let go of these other physical things and release yourself from physical to focus on, I guess, energetic?
Yes, and turn emotion into devotion.
Whoa, that's a good one. Because all you have is the emotion at that point.
Right.
You're hangry about everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you happen to know the other days of the week going from Monday? Is there something, as far as Kundalini-wise, as you go through the full 7 days?
Well, Tuesday, you would want to work on turning anger into inspiration.
Okay.
Wednesday would be conscious communication. Thursday, we will work on the aura expansion for Jupiter. Friday, we will work with Venus for heart center and communication. Saturday would be, clearing karma and doing the kind of class that you experienced, working hard. And Sunday would be a day of devotion and reverence.
Neptune? The sun, our heart.
Right. Honoring the one, right. The son of the one.
And I'm realizing these are all the visible planets with the naked eye too.
Right.
So that's a fascinating part there. Okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look at the days of the week differently now. We might change our whole business thanks to you. Everyone at my company is now freaking out. So can you talk about how you see weakness in someone's astrology chart as actually being opportunity? Like, specifically you spoke to kind of turning it upside down. I'm wondering what you see as far as weakness in the chart too, as an astrologer. Like, what would you regard as weakness in the chart, planetary wise?
Well, I'm not an astrologer, but give me an example of a problematic aspect.
Okay, so maybe with visible planets. So, Mars, Mars conjoining the moon could be problematic in the chart. So, that's Monday crashing into some other day. I guess would be Thursday. It's Monday and Thursday crashing into each other.
Well, how about what if Saturn were in retrograde? Is that something that might?
Yes, I mean in the first 11 days. Yes, I mean the shift in focus, the shift in power, the shift in suddenly feeling powerless, indecisive, second guessing what seemed to be clear.
Right. So there are meditations that are designed specifically for that aspect. And we would have our hands in a mudra with the Saturn finger prominent, and we would do a specific mantra and a specific breath. And that's specifically designed for Saturn in retrograde. We have things from Mercury retrograde and most things like that.
Wow. I did not know that. That's so interesting. Thank you. You just opened my mind to such another level. I love it.
And
So
then
you,
there are mantras, for instance, if nothing's working out to the extent where it's just you have to laugh to keep from crying, there are mantras you can do that can sort of turn problematic aspects into positive ones. And there's actually a meditation to balance your astrology. So if you feel that your chart is highly problematic, there's a way to sort of rework your script. And it takes a little effort, but the yogis, these are gifts of grace from the saints and sages of the ages, is an act of compassion, is a gift to humanity. So that, the great, are we just prisoners of our karma, or can we do something about it? And yoga says that we can do something about it, that we're not, that our aspects are not set in stone, that we can flip them.
they're not set in stone, they're set in our body. I feel like there's one thing we've realized, over time, my awakening is that I can tell everyone the astrology and the conscious position to take and the intention to aim for, but your body has captured all this energy in a disarray, and your body is continuing to repeat what it's captured as sort of its devotion to staying, right?
Right.
And so it's like I've learned from that's what I loved about yoga, doing it for so long myself, is I felt like I had wrung out the body, like wringing out all the bad energy out of it. I walk out feeling reset entirely, and that I had carried the stress and things and problems in my body. So it sounds like Kundalini has literally medicine of movement designed specifically to certain aspects of the planets and aspects of life.
Exactly. So
Go ahead.
our body stores trauma, and we need to find ways to reconfigure, to refine ourselves along more powerful and subtle lines. The Aquarian age mandates that we refine ourselves, that we become less dense. And so there are ways to do that, and mantras are a very powerful way. As we are what we eat, we are what we relate to, and these represent higher frequencies. And they're very relevant now, because we need to raise our frequency to capitalize on the opportunities that are available now.
Brilliantly said. We're going to be soundbiting this all day long, sir. So you mentioned the age of Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius being I feel it's the dawn of that. I think for the next 24 years, as Pluto climbs up like Kundalini, Aquarius, literally the potential of the human experience with energy can rise. So what else do you see in the shift, like necessary, let's say, spiritual maintenance in the shift between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius?
Well, I think we all need to make a conscious decision to get off the wheel of karma and onto the wheel of dharma. Dharma means a life of conscious integrity, means doing the right thing. It means aligning yourself with your path and purpose. And there's always a leap of faith required. It's never a slam dunk. You have to consciously decide, I'm going to open myself to that and step fearlessly forward. So I think that's what it all comes down to, that we need to individually and collectively get off the wheel of karma and onto the wheel of dharma. Live sustainably, live consciously, honor your soul. These are all really important things, ongoing projects in our lives.
And dharma is our purpose, right? Like, how would you define that?
Exactly. Dharma is the path we're born to walk. And I do a form of numerology, which makes it easier to find your path. For instance,
Really?
what day of the month were you born?
May. Oh, the day of the month, 9th, May 9th.
Okay, so nine is an old soul number. 9 is mastery. It's a high form of mastery. It means that everything you do is sort of imbued with a certain, like the next level. It's an old soul number. It means you're primed to graduate this earth plane. And it also means you've been around the block many times, and you've done this many times before, and that's your soul. So you're obviously doing it, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I have some 9s in my numbers as well, and 9s have to be careful because there are many lifetimes where we've been misunderstood, and maybe harmed for our beliefs. So we're wary sometimes to let out everything we know, but the Aquarian age mandates that we just put it all out there. Let people partake of our wisdom.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's precisely. And I feel like I'm wearing out my team because there's no stopping ever. I just wear people out. I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. You might help us in backstage about how 9 doesn't wear people out.
Well, you probably feel a sense of urgency because
yes, I do.
There's so much to convey in so little time.
Totally. And so much distraction. And and karma being the wheel instead of dharma being the wheel, or the wheel of fortune being the only care in the world.
Well, that's interesting that you say distraction, because 9 is there's so many things coming in. It's hard to filter. The metaphor would be an artist who has about 30 paintings in their studio that they started, and then they go on to the next one. You have to complete one painting before you go on to the next one.
Okay, entirely. It seems like, maybe this is the problem here, folks. But, trying to build complex systems, how does one do that with a complex system? Now I'm asking for advice for a 9 only. So sorry, y'all. We need to talk about it.
Well, you just kind of keep your eyes on the prize and try to prioritize and do your best.
Yeah. Okay. I'm doing it then. Okay. You heard it, folks. I am doing my best. No, what he says is exactly true. I do feel the sense of urgency that there is no time, that I can't get far enough. People say I work too hard. I say that I'm running out of time, and I see it as this dawn, this moment. So, for instance, going back to your, you said it's the chants. I can't remember what they're called now. It's the speaking. You said there's ludras. What are the two? There's something you say.
Mudras and mantras.
Mudras and mantras. Okay. What exactly are the mantras doing in your opinion? Is it a form of prayer? Is it vibrational from the sound of the words and the spelling themselves? How do the mantras work?
Well, you could define God as the source field.
Okay.
And mantras are the names of God. Names are qualities of the infinite. Okay. And they're not just random sounds. They are predetermined sounds with a vibratory effect. So when you do mantras, you're vibrating the source field. You're vibrating the whole universe. So when we vibrate the universe vibrates back. And that's really what mantras are based on. When we vibrate the universe vibrates back. And of course, there are all kinds of, physiological benefits from doing mantras for your nervous system, for your psyche, and beyond.
Yes, I mean, I've experienced it through Buddhist practice mantras, and feel it absolutely. There's something there that is uniting me with the moment in the universe, and I feel tuned. I really authentically, you cannot deny it.
Right.
There's a magic there you feel, after just a couple minutes. So you have different mantras for different situations, much like a prescription for a different, vibrational, hazard going on inside of you, stuff like that.
And I do want to say that mantras are an acquired taste. When people first encounter them, it's very weird. And why do we have to do things in another language? And my answer to that, it's not another language. It's the most personal language there is. It's the language of our own soul. It's the language of the universe. It's part of us. Like the word Ma is a universal mantra, and it stands for something, cosmic. But there's something about mantras. You start doing them, and your intellect will sort of, resist. But then you can't. You just keep going back to it. You just keep going back to it because part of you is reveling in it. Part of you it makes us happy.
It totally does, and I do sincerely believe there's an abracadabra sort of to it in the sense that our reality, the illusion, is hard-coded with these frequencies. And so I can feel you're tapping right into whatever that system of energetic field is. And now you're influencing it, basically. Your voice is influencing the field itself, at least the field around you.
Exactly. So, Om is the most common mantra, well-known mantra,
Yeah.
and it was, revealed to humankind through experience. People heard this in their meditation states, and all the mantras were received in this way. People heard them
Ah.
vibrating in the universe, and they passed them on.
So they meditated to a different dimension or experience, and in that dimension, they witnessed the sounds of the core of that, and then came back and replicated it. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Wow, I didn't know that was how that was determined. Yeah, it is a little at first that for the average American who started that, back when I was 19, my first mantra,
Wow.
it felt repetitious. It felt like, come on already, But I think we come from Christians would make you say stuff, that clearly didn't have any connection to the core of reality, a connection to the intentions of the church. So we just sort of felt like we were repeating and writing our, same sentence on the board like punishment, So I think that I had that Western, roadblock in my own prejudice to, citing scripture, right, or whatever. So I just say to people out there, don't allow that to block you, because it's different. It's magic.
Exactly.
It really is.
The mind tends to act out. Yoga says that yoga has been described as controlling the thought waves of the mind. That's a classical definition of yoga. One of the most powerful tools to control the mind, which is really key to everything, is mantra. So when we give our mind what it wants, which is an infinite reminder, it gives us what we want, which is peace of mind. Otherwise, it'll act out forever.
That's true. And I have to say, in my experience of all yoga, that I walk away calm and ready for meditation. I walk away ready. I can't calm my mind as well. I can't calm my mind, actually. It's going to come out in a minute. But if I do a practice like yoga, there's a period after that for about 30 minutes where I'm just calm. It's centered. My mind has realized who's boss again.
Exactly. It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And also maybe you're just reminding the mind has the capability of imagining itself as separate. So I think it just puts itself in this weird state. So what does Om do, for instance, in that context? Like what are we tuning when we chant Om?
Well, you're tuning to the whole universe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it is. It's the universe encapsulated. God and God's names are the same. So when we, vibrate these beautiful names, we are resonating with the universe. And then the universe can work through us, and we can understand more readily what the universe wants of us.
Are we polishing the universe in that area? Also, is there like a retroactive, like the space, the time, the studio that you're working in? Does all that space sort of get realigned too?
Yes, my experience of doing these practices is my environments always improve. If we're living in a building somewhere, an apartment building, things always tend to get better, or whatever community we're in, they tend to get better.
Interesting. So you law of attract opportunity, investment, all sorts of things. It's sort of
Exactly. So you're literally vibrating the space around you, and when you raise the frequency, things tend to improve. I think the universe is tilted towards things working out. So when we relate to the universe in this way, it relates to us in the way that it knows how. Things tend to work out.
That's brilliant. You mentioned, I think you touched upon scientific evidence of the benefits of Kundalini Yoga. Could you reiterate that in full?
Yeah, well, there are studies been done for stroke recovery.
Okay.
There's a meditation called the Satan Nama meditation, where you're playing your fingers and doing a mantra, Satan Nama, which means existence, life, death, rebirth. When you do that, you're playing your brain like a piano. So these are the yoga claims for this. And then these have been studied. And in fact, it turns out that they've been proven that, people recover faster from stroke when they do this meditation. And again, or there are other studies that have demonstrated that people's happiness quotient increases when they meditate or do certain practices. People's vital capacity increases when you do the conscious breathing. So these have all, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. I like to say that science is always the last to know. In other words, by the time science gets around to proving someone, people have already known it for hundreds, maybe thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. Truth. Absolutely. So talking about Kundalini predicting Kundalini resolving problems and astrology cycles, I was wondering, for instance, you talked about the full moon, I think, right? What about like a Venus or a Mars or like a Venus-Mars retrograde? Things are going backwards.
Well, if Venus is in retrograde, we might do, there's a meditation called Powerful Communication from the Heart. So that would be a perfect one to do for Venus in retrograde. And you're having your hands in a certain mudra, and you're doing a mantra and a breath, and that would be something to do for Venus in retrograde. Or Mars in retrograde, you might want to work on the navel chakra to turn anger into inspiration.
I'll do one more. How about Mercury retrograde?
Mercury in retrograde, you want to work on the throat chakra for communication, and also the heart for communication as well. And there are certain mudras that use the little finger, which is called the Mercury finger, and that would be those mudras, which means hand position, would be very useful to meditate. But the throat chakra would be what to focus on when Mercury is in retrograde. And of course, no matter what the aspect is, like there's something in yoga that we call sadhana, and sadhana means your practice. And the most powerful time to do a practice is pre-dawn. And when you make sacrifices like that or do austerities, that would be an austerity. You're sacrificing your time, space, and comfort to honor infinity. Then the aspects like Mercury in retrograde would be buffered. So hassles might happen, but far less than they might have otherwise. So when there are problematic aspects, we want to make a conscious sacrifice, like get up earlier than you might normally and meditate, etc. And the universe smiles on those things, and problematic aspects are definitely buffered.
Interesting. Yeah, we see in a retrograde, I look at it as an astrologer as a period of, refitting, reorganizing that state of awareness. I look at those as states of awareness, so the intellectual state of awareness, the sharing, openness, and Venus. So I see that, it is a timeout. I notice it's a timeout. Your life will not officially move forward. You do have this extra time, this magical time, where it sort of doesn't count on your report card. But it's interesting to see that you see the same thing and have your own approach. That's really fascinating.
Actually, when there's a retrograde, we need to go back and deal with what hasn't been dealt with. And just like our Saturn return, same thing. Whatever hasn't been dealt with needs to be focused on. And, when someone's approaching their Saturn return, I have them do a 40-day meditation to sort of buffer what may be coming.
Wow, that's interesting. So you have something called a tantric numerology. What is that? That sounds like another technique to get people in. And how does it work?
Well, it's based on basically our numbers represent weak links on the bracelet of our being that need to become strengths for our life to work. So our numbers represent kind of weaknesses that we're born with that were meant to turn into strengths. So that's what our numbers represent. So tell me your whole birthday. You said you were born in May?
May 9th, 1973.
So your karma number would be a 5. And that would mean that you need to keep an eye on, not burning yourself out, not going to extremes, finding balance. So that would, finding balance in your body. So that would need to be something you would need to keep an eye on your whole life.
Okay.
And
it's a problem. I'll admit it.
And in doing that, you will turn something that could have been problematic into something that could be an amazing asset.
Interesting. So do these coincide with traditional Western numerology or, the more pop culture?
Well, I think all numerology systems, including this one, come from Babylon and Sumeria, and then of course the ones before, the ones that we talked about, that we have no name for. That's where it all comes from, and ultimately, these teachings come from the universe itself. is a dispensation of grace to ease human suffering. That's really where these things come from the universe itself.
Huh. That's fascinating, to ease human suffering. So our numbers of our numerology based on our date of birth, it's not our personality as I've understood it, or our cosmic map, but rather our cosmic homework.
Exactly. That's a really good way of putting it, our cosmic homework. Exactly. So it's a way to like, by relating to your 9, it's a way to honor your soul, and in honoring your soul, that's what leads to your happiness. That's where your happiness lies, and in honoring your soul as a, as a master.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating and true. I guess I'm a positive spinner. That's how I've always succeeded. It's just because it's so rare, the positive perspective. So, but as I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, I've always been sort of talking you into faith. Those states, the planets, everything, the chart, it really is what's working, what's not working, or the misuse of a talent, or the misuse of ability, where it's going too far and not enough. It really is a problem underneath. There's a consequence of those. Yeah.
Well, that all comes down to the purification of the ego.
Yeah.
So
okay. Tell us more about that.
That has to be one of our ongoing projects.
Seems like it. I mean, to me, it seems like the fundament of most enlightenment, approaches. I mean, how does one do that? I mean, the ego is meant to be with us, yes, and we don't ascend out of it, or do we?
We don't, the ego's, it's always been cast in a negative light in the Eastern teachings, but we need our ego.
Yes.
It sort of helps us buffer the onslaught of the psyche. We need to filter the psyche. We need to integrate it into life as we know it. So we need our ego. It's important. Really, on one level, we need to strengthen our ego. Strengthen our ego. In fact, I feel that most people I encounter in the yoga world need to strengthen their ego.
Yes, I actually encounter that too. I mean, it seems like more of the, it's almost like they've spent so many past lives erasing it from some other, practice.
Right.
And now they're completely, feel victimized or overstepped or insecure to step. So yeah, I agree. I mean, but also there's the softening as well.
Yeah. And one way to purify the ego, for instance, is practice not taking things personally, but taking things universally.
Okay, that's interesting. So we have an issue with that right now in our company, everywhere I'm working. Like, it seems that right now people are really taking things personally, and everyone is. And even when they take it personally, I then take it personally, and they take it personally. So do you have, for that issue, for instance, how would you tackle that with Kundalini?
Well, there are techniques that invoke. So I would say that taking things personally relates to the first chakra. It's that's where the ego lives. We want to invoke the 7th, which is more of an overview, the ability to step back and see from a higher, see higher and wider. And so there are techniques for that. But then when you activate your 7th chakra, the pineal gland, you have a more oceanic sense of things, and the little things don't seem so important.
I've always noticed that too. One can't deny it, that the red root, violet has red in it. It's the incorporation of red and blue.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So it's like violet includes the ego, includes that survival energy, but
Right,
it's applied
exactly.
to a higher purple. Yeah, it's interesting how those colors go full cycle, and that difference between red and purple, is interesting. You said earlier that this moment in time is important. A tug of war of cosmic proportions and battle for the human soul is, I think, what you said.
Right.
Can you tell us what that means right now, in your opinion?
Well, I'm really inspired by a great mystic named Rudolf Steiner. And he taught in the 20s and 30s.
Yes.
And he characterized the energy of chaos as Ahriman. And he said that Ahriman is the agent of chaos, and he wants to convince humans that they have no soul. And so Ahriman has gifted humanity technology. Technology is making life easier, but at the same time, it's taking us away from our soul.
Yes.
And that would be a great tragedy. So we need to remember that our soul is our most precious commodity. It's the most important thing that we have, and we need to preserve it. And there are powers that be that have a vested interest in disempowering people and convincing them they have no soul. Like science right now is all about the brain. Everything is being explained now by the brain, and they're patting themselves on the back because they've discovered this or that about the brain. But the brain is not the be all end all. It's only part of who we are. And they're not talking about the soul, and that's really needs to be part of the conversation.
I agree. And we see it in cell phones are making, I mean, just look at a classroom today, them on their cell phones. There's no life. There's no bouncing around. There's no laughing. There's no talking anymore in class.
Right.
Talking is no longer a problem in class, guys, because they're on their phone.
Exactly.
I used to be talking. I used to get in trouble for talking every day.
Right.
But it's interesting because now they have been dulled down to this this commander, the cell phone, and which is, after waves that penetrate the body, now intention and root intention and behaviors also penetrated and captured. So, and there's also, I think, to your argument as another example, it's like the violence has gone to such a level that I have no response to seeing violence anymore. It doesn't make my soul upset. It doesn't make me anything. I'm dead in that presence. So I can see everywhere brought to this dead state where the soul doesn't exist or considered, So in that sense, how does the role of technology play in the battle for the soul?
Well, for instance, things like cell phones and computers, they are allowing us to do things mechanically that used to be done intuitively and organically. And it's taking away our ability to trust our own intuition.
Yes.
And
ability. Yeah.
And we're being numbed.
Yeah.
People experience life through a screen now, through a glass darkly. And most people are not present in life.
Yes.
They're living life through a barrier. And that's a tragedy. And so again, we need to wake up our senses and wake up.
Yeah, I mean, they're even talking about augmented glasses, augmented computers. It's like we're literally not going to see life with our own eyes if we keep this up. We're literally going to stop watching life with our own eyes. We're literally listening to life with our own ears. Even these devices that bypass ear sound and go right into the bone of the eardrum. It's like,
wow,
that's hacking in on a level that disgusts me personally. But we're being desensitized in even the five senses, right? And we're eating chemical tastes, and we're not eating the actual food flavors. They're all for artificial flavor. Everything's becoming artificial.
I noticed something around 2000 that there's a very fine line between hive mind and Zen mind. Hive mind and Zen mind. It amazed me that when Google first happened and all that, the people didn't mind having their privacy invaded. They didn't mind
being told
what to do and what to think. And that's hive mind. And, Zen mind is happening as well. I mean, people are evolving, waking up. But I think that we have to be really careful now because hive mind is controllable and manipulatable. And we want to be self-sovereign beings. And one of the definitions of when our Kundalini is present, when our spirit is part of our lives, then we're not able to be manipulated because we're self-sovereign. I think that's a really important concept.
Self-sovereign. Wow, that word keeps coming up. Sovereign's coming up everywhere in our world. It's just coming up. It's sprouting up. People are saying it out of nowhere. We've never used the term. What is self-sovereign? What is self-sovereign in your definition?
Well, self-sovereign means that you answer to yourself, you make your own decisions, that your destiny is in your own hands, that you think that you have certain rights as a human being, and you're not afraid to honor them, things like that. That means that, for instance, medically speaking, when we're told that we need to do this or we need to do that, we have the right to think twice about what's being recommended to us and just make our own decisions based on our own awareness, based on our own experience, based on our own intuition. That's what it means to be self-sovereign.
And I have interpreted also on a spiritual level. Just observed, I should say, not fully interpreted, where self-sovereign also means I'm the creator of my reality. I'm the creator of my
Exactly.
universe. I am the God of my world, and participating with other gods. And so it goes above choosing what you put in your body too. It seems to be multidimensional, this concept.
Yes. Yes. So we have the right to decide how we want to engage with life and being.
Absolutely. Well, that's so powerful. I'm so glad they came up tonight. You say many people feel numb, they're having thyroid issues and still suffering from the fall of out of COVID. What did COVID do from your Kundalini perspective as a net result of having gone through it as a culture?
Well, I don't want to be overly controversial, but I think COVID represented a form of spiritual warfare. I mean,
Okay.
it was that simple. I think that so many things, it was a metaphor for so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the answer to COVID was take care of your own immune system, keep yourself strong, live a healthy life.
Yep.
And, you can, but then we were told that we had to fear it, and we had to obey complicitly what the authorities were telling us. And people are looking back and now saying, wait a second, was all that necessary? And I think that's a metaphor for something bigger. And it really comes down to our ability to be self-sovereign and our ability to make our own decisions.
Okay. Beautiful. And I guess that leads to really the final question I think that's important for tonight. So you believe, it seems, that there's a vast spiritual awakening that's happening right now, is what I'm gathering, but you also have a great doubt, it seems like, and fear. I can feel both forces in you. So, what are the ways that we can move towards the happy ending?
Well, the way to move towards a happy ending is to raise consciousness individually and collectively. To me, that's the bottom line. You can talk to people till you're blue in the face, but nothing's going to happen for people until they raise consciousness. Personally, I'll give you a quick story. Personally, I'm a vegan. I have been since I've been 19.
Wow.
The first practice I ever did was TM, Transcendental Meditation.
Mhm.
I was meditating for about a month, and one day I was making some hot dogs in the oven, and I just looked at them and I said, what am I doing? What am I putting in my body? And I just threw them out, and that was it. I never ate meat from that moment on. And that's an example of what happens when you raise consciousness. You start to connect dots. You start to think twice about the choices you make in life. You see with a wider view. And I think the ultimate answer right now is to raise consciousness individually and collectively. And I do believe that Kundalini Yoga is one of the most powerful tools that I've found to help people do that.
Absolutely, I would agree. And I'd like to go down the meat route, but we'll hold that for our next conversation, because that's another interesting aspect. There's a lot of things in our common day life that are invading upon, as you said, like a virus coming in and invading our sovereignty, our self-sovereignty. And the debate around food, but then the answer being fake food, which is still chemical based. So it's like, I see these viruses hijacking systems, like you said, hive mind versus Zen mind. The universe already had one working just fine, and in comes this virus that sort of reprograms the energy and frequency of that, that natural energy of the universe, right? And then from there, we're sort of talked in this alternative, the synthetic, and the more synthetic, the more disconnected we are from spirit, it seems like, and who we are.
But viruses have been part of human evolution, and they tend to fast track things. So look what happened. Look what COVID did. It fast tracked something very beautiful, I think.
Yes, absolutely. In so many ways. I mean, here in the United States, I'll say, that I witnessed, it's just the fact that we were rats in the rat race, and we were doing 40, 60 hours a week. And, if you want to go anywhere, quote, quote. And then now, after this whole experience, we can't get a table at a restaurant because no one wants to be a waiter. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it's like, what? That was like the go-to, so you can see huge cultural difference as a result of that fever.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're offering something for our subscribers, and I think we've seen the coming up. You want to tell us about your 7-day trial that you're offering?
We have a website, raviana.com, and we have Kundalini Yoga streams, all kinds of practices that you can incorporate into your life and raise your consciousness and stay healthy and reset every day. And if you follow that QR code, you can get a 7-day free trial. So you can try some of these Kundalini practices for free and see how you like it.
That sounds great. You know, we should maybe do like a coordinated one with our with the whole. We should just all do it together and see how we feel. Because I think if the community does it together, we might feel the whole community sort of thrive for 7 days and then start drinking on the 8th.
And there's a stream called Kundalini Start Here.
Oh.
And so that might be a good one. Or there's a Kundalini Yoga for Abundance. And so, and when you do sign up, pick the Membership Plus plan so that you can have access to everything on the site.
Oh, that's a good. Okay, so it's 7 days of everything. You just try it all out for 7
Right.
days.
Right.
And so, and are these live classes that are being streamed?
These are videos that you play at your leisure.
Okay.
So these are online videos.
Okay, that's good. So I don't have to be on time because that's always
No. Anytime you want.
God, you cannot sneak in late to a yoga class. You cannot. You cannot leave early. Like you are that guy, you know. So this is good. I like it.
And if anyone tries these practices and wants to write to us and let us know how you're doing or ask anything, we're more than happy to answer.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, sir. I feel better in your presence. You've helped me to come to some fascinating realizations today, including the incorporation of the weekdays and the astrology and the methods that Kundalini can do. I hope everyone takes an interest in your business, and I hope that it thrives.
Thank you, Christopher. It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Stay after backstage for a moment so we can say goodbye there. And thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you. That was cool and Zen, not Hive, wasn't it? That was quite Zen, not Hive. I'm gonna start saying that. That's so Hive. We should just have a little slogan for it. That's not Zen. So thank you very much for our guest tonight. It was wonderful. And to our producer and to everyone who was involved in bringing that to the table, because that was amazing. As we say farewell for now, there's some things we want to put into your mind, into your Zen mind, not your Hive mind. First is LOL, Leading Out Loud, probably one of my proudest co-creations of this whole year. Such a fabulous team of yogis, if you will, in their own discipline. We talked about it yesterday, went live yesterday. We talked about, is marriage necessary? Is it? Is this something that's been put upon us, this idea that we have to get married, like the state involves us and the church, shames us? Where is it? What are the different aspects? And we go into other topics such as the ideas of what we pick up on, what twin flames are, and soulmates are, and all these topics. And of course, we did this right for Libra, so it's right for the picking in Libra. It is available for immediate watching right now on our LOL channel of YouTube. So, which is you can be reached easy at leadingoutloud.com. Go to leadingoutloud.com and you'll be taken straight to our channel. And check out my team. We have a great time every week. We laugh. It's fun. I'm really enjoying this so much, and I love all my partners there. Now, free to the public, we're actually changing the name. We realize it's maybe a little confusing. The Daily Download with Heather Exposito is going to be lovingly changed to the Daily Miniscope. Our Miniscope is coming out because that's what it is, a little Miniscope of the day, short and sweet, 7 days a week, by Heather Exposito, who, if you don't know, has been training, Master Jedi Step Astrologer, been training for over 3 years, working directly with me, so she knows it inside out. And she is a great interface to keeping it short and sweet. We find that when you start astrology, it can be a little overwhelming. We find that there's too many terms. And Heather has brilliantly made this based on just a couple of planets, just a couple of things. Really the key points, almost like we're looking for acupuncture astrologically of what exactly to focus on that day, and you get the job done. So this is free. Can I say free enough? Free. And it's at seriousjoy.com, 7 days a week with Heather Exposito, now called the Daily Miniscope. And of course, we have our Serious Joy TV shows that we produce at Serious Joy for our subscribers. And I want to say there's a new one coming out, or you could say a refresh of the old, a rehash of the old. And that is basically our Zodiac Mega Monthly show. So we now have a show. I'm bringing it to a show. Finally got this formula down. Myself and our lead astrologer, Robbie Hunt, will star this Wednesday, October 16th, right before the sun goes into Scorpio. So we'll always air right before the sign change, the Wednesday before the sign change at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. This is a live stream with Robbie and myself, more television style, Serious Joy TV, less podcast style. And we go over the month ahead and we focus only on Scorpio. So we're just going to narrow focus on Scorpio. I found after 18 years of doing this, it finally dawned on me, maybe we should base it on the sign, not the month, because it used to be the month of November. So that's Scorpio and Sag. So I always had two different consciousnesses coming in and competing for one another and not able to dive deep enough into either. And then somewhere just came to me the obvious, let's just focus on one sign at a time. So Robbie is also the co-host for the individual versions of these that come out for us. And right now we have the Libra megas available right now in our tag team astrology. So if you're a subscriber to Serious Joy, you can watch still the Libra individual reports. And starting that Wednesday, next Wednesday, you'll get the new show talking about Scorpio. So at Serious Joy, we have got you covered. And we're so proud of that, by the way. And thank you, Robbie. It's such a pleasure to work with you. Also sitting with me for years. Also been there in the background when no one knew. Sharing is caring. It's the best thing you can do to raise vibration. Talk about Kundalini. Just share us with your friends, your family, specifically your own horoscope. We cut out the horoscopes. We go live with them on Tuesdays. Share a horoscope to someone. Please share the light. As he's mentioned, our guest tonight, that this is a crazy moment where we need to come together. And one way to do it is to kind of share that medicine with others. You can also share in our Facebook club. Navigate to seriousjoy.club and you'll come to our Facebook club. This is a community of light. We have volunteers around the world keeping out the bots and keeping out the negativity, which is a full-time job, by the way. We're seeing bots going up right now before the election, just saying, coming in and infiltrating and trying to start fights. I'm not kidding. It's pretty interesting. But don't worry, we have actually people that are plucking these out one vermin at a time, and that's their heart's duty and their heart's desire. So it's a safe club on Facebook. I know safe and Facebook don't usually go together, but they do in this case because we add human consciousness to the equation. If you want to follow us, we do have a LinkedIn page at seriousjoy.social. So you can find how to get to us at other places on the world and in the web. And if you don't know, we have the Namaste Today podcast, which is the audio version of this show, which is available on Spotify, on Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. We thank you for that. We do realize it was down for a while because we had a staff change and it didn't carry over. So for those of you who gave up on that, please, we're sorry. We're just, we lost our focus there and we got it back up and going. I want to say special thanks to my amazing team. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke. I mean, I have the best team in the world. I have Jupiter in the 7th. Special thanks to our producer, Diane DeStefano, our graphics, casting, and chat moderator, Nina K. Also, a special thanks to Mara, who helped us find tonight's guest. I understand she was the one that found the talent of that great man tonight. Our multiverse master director, Adam Turner. He's always in 10 places at once. And our teaching faculty at seriousjoy.com, Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Devin Dewar, Joe Zammit from Australia, Gwen English, who we just saw on camera for the first time, and Daiki Komodos to come on board, and of course, Heather Exposito, our host of Everyday's Miniscope. We also have our special super friends. Let's bring them on in here and say thank you to them. These are the people that show up and come every week to help us be who we are. So thank you very much to Sydney, who I just talked to. Iggy, I see you, brother. Neetu, just talked to you too. Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, Sydney. Daryl Blankenship, he's on the road. He might not be watching, but I still love you, brother. I'll see you soon. Erica, Experimental Elemental, Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson. Hello, Sarah LaRock. I recognize you too. See, we see these. They're actually here. Truth or Fears. Whatever that means, we love you. And of course, Princess Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, and Margot Melia. Just wouldn't be a Friday night without you all. So thank you for coming. We applaud you, and we love that you are there for us. I'm a total fangirl of each of you. All right, friends. Well, I guess that's it for one more week. You know, it's our final week. Let's find the we this week, and I'll be back next week to celebrate the we. Until then, I'm so grateful for you and for spreading the light and raising it yourself. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I love you. Live, love, be.
It's